Now that it appears that the fight between Sukuna and Gojo is wrapping up, I think that it's a good time to talk about why this fight has been so important to the series, both in terms of in canon and to us as a fan base. But before we begin, please be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss more anime content from me. I think it's fair to say that in terms of anime battles that have been foreshadowed and kind of had a lot of groundwork laid down for them, very few can compare to the idea of Sukuna versus Gojo. I really mean that too, because when you think about it, a lot of anime battles tend to spring up rather miraculously within their series, or they're given only like the most bare bones of outlining ahead of time. You know, you think about moments like in MHA where the battle versus Stain and the UA students is really cool, but it doesn't have a lot of build up to it. And there's a lot of other moments throughout various series, like when you think about it, like Ichigo versus Aizen in a lot of ways, while very important and he did have motivation, it's not like that had been a near constant build up between those characters. So having this idea of a actually vicious rivalry, we're not talking like normal anime rivalry where characters are always pushing each other. We're talking straight up these two characters are going to hate each other and are going to fight to possibly the death. We don't really get a lot of those. We don't get a lot of those. And Jujutsu Kaisen kind of offered us a really good one. The concept of the strongest sorcerer in the modern era versus who may have been the strongest sorcerer in the ancient era. And that was something we all look forward to. I mean, it was teased again and again and again, and we always knew it was going to happen. But as it has unfolded, I think that a few important clarifications have come around from it. So, one of those most important clarifications is, why is it so important to us in terms of in the context of the series? And there are three, in my opinion, reasons for this. I would honestly say that the first of these is just something that Gojo has always been used for in this series. And to be honest, Sukuna too. And that is that these are two characters who tend to push everyone else forward. They tend to make everyone want to gain more power, whether out of admiration and a want to be like that person, like in the case of Gojo, or to have enough power to stand up to that person, in the case of Sukuna. I mean, Gojo obviously is a big influence on Yuji and Yuta and actually all the students, but I think that he's most noticeable with those two. By that same token, you could even argue that Sukuna is a big impact on characters like Megami, for more than one reason, but he's a big impact on Megami because he forced him to evolve. Yes, Megami went to Gojo for help, but to be honest, it really does come off more like Sukuna thinking he could be the special grade weighed more on him than Gojo thinking he could do that. And maybe that says a lot. Maybe that says a lot about Sukuna's reputation, and if he thinks somebody is dangerous, it is, in a way, like getting a seal of approval. So I think these two characters have always pushed everyone else around them, and now them pushing each other is just going to really push everyone else. I mean, after witnessing a battle between two as close to gods as you can get in this universe, I think it's going to force all of the other sorcerers in the world to essentially have to step up now. They've seen a new height, and as we've previously discussed in this series, the idea of Gojo being born alone essentially evolved the Jujutsu world, forcing it to change drastically in terms of both the curses that started to emerge and restricting curse users. Because of that, I think that, basically now having Sukuna back and then this fight is going to force that evolution again. And I think our characters are going to benefit from it. I would say that, it's also very important for the series because this is essentially the fight that will kick off the very tail end, at least we assume it's the tail end, of Kenjaku's plan. Now, obviously, the involving Gedo and involving the disaster curses and everything that's been built up to this point, the emergence of Sukuna, all of this plan has really led here. And so the master puppeteer, his plans somewhat evolving due to the interference of others, but more or less having gone like how he wanted, I don't necessarily doubt that this is in his plans as well. I think that these two characters were always going to be here. He knew he'd have to take care of both of them. I mean, I think he always thought Sukuna was going to be the last member of the Culling Games. We kind of even get that in Kashimo's backstory when Kashimo asks him who is the strongest sorcerer ever, and he says, without a doubt, it's Sukuna. he just always knew it would be him. And it's entirely possible that this is still feeding into the nature of the culling games, because think about how much cursed energy must have just been released in terms of this. I mean, this whole thing was to collect cursed energy to create the crossover. These two guys are like self-sustaining curse reactors. The amount of energy they probably just unleashed in this whole area is phenomenal, and it probably did figure into his plan. You also have to take into account that, as I have said in previous episodes, it's more than likely he will attempt to take out one, if not both, of them at this point. Both Gojo and Sukuna have been left drastically weakened by their fight, and there is no better opportunity for anyone to attempt to take them out than right now. So, whether that happens or not, it just makes logical sense. If Kenjaku and the others don't try and take them out, I think there will be another twist in the plan. I'm not entirely sure what it'll be, but this fight will have definitely been part of it in some way, even if it was only to distract both of them. I think the other reason that this battle is really important is that from a meta perspective, like for us as the audience, this battle really brings to the idea that this series is ending. I mean, originally, a couple months ago, maybe longer, when Gege announced that this was going to be like the last year and a half for Jujutsu Kaisen, a lot of us kind of scoffed, where we thought there would be too much story left to tell and it would have to be at least 2 years. And then we got the Megami and Sukuna thing, and then it's just been rolling downhill since then. I think that this battle as well really signifies that this series, as we know it at least, is coming to a close. And, you're probably looking at one more stage, basically, I would call it. You have Shinjuku Showdown. I think you're looking at one last arc, and then this series is going to be over. Now, that doesn't mean that Gege may or may not return to it in the future, or another author or mangaka might be allowed in the form of light novels or a spin-off series, and that could be really cool. And if we're really lucky, maybe Gege will want to do another set of stories set in this universe. But I think that we really have to acknowledge that this series is going to end really soon, and to be honest, it might end before MHA and Black Clover do. So, with that in mind, you just got to kind of brace yourself for that, and I think that's what Shinjuku Showdown was supposed to help with. How close we are to the end, and I'll be sure to talk to you in the next episode.